Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and thank you for joining me for Subconscious Dialogues. It has been a whirlwind of the last few days. About 3 days ago, I was manifesting my next solution, and that's what I manifest. I manifest solutions. And I teach in my manifestation classes how you also can manifest solutions. And I was asking for my next stepping stone in the process. And the universe spoke up, which is very rare for her. And she said, hold on. And I thought she was referring to me holding on to my partner, as in, be stable, endure this next stage. And I went, okay. And I got everything all set up. I aligned with consistency. That's important. And I said, what do I need to prepare for this long stretch of silence with him? And I anticipated worst case scenario and how I was going to get my mind where it needed to be to just hold on. And with that, I saw 5 new solutions, boom, 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 fall into place. And when that happened, I saw the dominoes shift, and I picked up my dominoes, and I went, all right, I got 5 new dominoes. And I went, boom, 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 boom. And then I stopped, and I went, it's done. I have been building this domino train since I was 4 years old. Manifesting stages and steps and lining them up. Always seeing how the dominoes were going to fall, but never knocking them over, just setting them up, shifting them, moving them, positioning them, making sure that they were right where I needed. And I could look down the line and see exactly where they were going to land. And I just kept plugging in dominoes. Today, I plugged in the last domino. And as soon as I did, I went, there's nothing left to manifest. I can see my goal, and I can see what I want, and I can see every stepping stone from point A to point B. And it's time to knock them down. It is time to knock them down. And I don't have to do anything except show up and be a bard. I'm a bard. I am a bard. And I was thinking about this. You know the difference between a public speaker and a bard? A public speaker, I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea what a public speaker looks like. I have no idea how it's done. I have no idea what's expected of me. Now, definitely, the show must go on, and you always show up, and I am down with that. But presentation, cue cards, maybe taking a pen on stage while I take notes. You see, I'm a bard. I'm not a public speaker. That title does not belong to me. I am a bard. Bards have a lot more liberty than public speakers. The first liberty we have is we pretty much get to make up the rules. For instance, I'm not here to lecture you in a nice suit. I had a few picked out, but that's not who I am. And I am all about being authentic. If I want to show up in my pajamas, I'm going to show up in my pajamas because that's who I am. And we are talking about my comfort here. My comfort. Now, I value my comfort. I really value my comfort because I have been without it. So I understand its value. And it is not a negotiable. Having boundaries is also about having negotiables And I'm going to borrow from BDSM for this one. Having a hard no, having a soft no, and having a curious section, just like in BDSM. A hard no is BDSM for talk, for it is not to be brought up, it is not to be discussed, it is not to be breached, and it is not to be negotiated. Period. With a hard no, the right answer is absolutely, as you wish. No questions asked. If it's a soft no, that means they need to bring it up. They need to be the ones to step forward and say, okay, I'm ready to talk about this, but you do not bring it up. Curious about means you can breach the subject, you can ask them, but you really need to not push it beyond that. Now, for people who are going into a world without boundaries, this information is very useful. Because now it's not just a boundary, you have degrees. Because some boundaries are black and white, but other boundaries are gray. Now, if it's a hard no boundary, that means it's not to be discussed and you're not to ask questions. Do not ask me if I'm married. You don't know what my situation is. And maybe that is a very difficult topic for me right now. So I'm going to say hard no. Don't bring up these topics. Do not ask me about my children. Do not. That to me, don't do it. Don't fucking do it. I don't give a shit how long we've been friends. If we have not met face to face at least 6 times, do not ask me about my children. Don't do it. They will not be a part of your life and you will not be a part of theirs. So for me, that's a hard no. Soft no. Soft no looks like this is a topic I'm willing to breach later, but definitely not now and definitely not on your terms. I'm going to have to drive that topic and you're just going to have to be patient. And I would have a list of these are all of my soft no's. Curious is I really want to talk about this, but I'm nervous and I might need your help. So every time I sit down with a sub, this is one of the questions. These are the 3 questions I ask. Give me your hard boundaries, give me your soft boundaries, give me your curious boundaries. And if someone comes at me and says, well, I have no boundaries. Oh, that's a red flag. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Somebody has narcissistic abuse syndrome. You should not be playing in BDSM. If you have no boundaries, you have no fucking business being in BDSM. That is my rule. And if you want the honor of playing with me, and yes, it is an honor, then you're going to play with my rules. And you had better be bringing your own. Because if you're not bringing your own, then we're not discussing anything further. I called this podcast, this particular episode, Hindsight. Because I came on here to talk about a very difficult topic for me. Because I'm looking at a situation going, oh, wow, the universe is amazing. So I want to show you what the universe pulled off. My partner is, let's say for his privacy's sake, not in the same generation as I am. I'm not going to tell you if he's older, my age, or younger. That being said, around the same time that he was making wishes for someone to show up with ABC qualities, I was enduring the very traumas that I would need in order to develop the exact qualities that matched his wishes. That's right. Now, when I got out of my trauma, I just wanted it to mean something. All right, you put me through 40 years of fucking hell. But why? Make it mean something. It ripped me apart, realizing that it meant nothing. So I created the garden so that it would mean something, because it didn't mean anything. Or so I thought. Today, I learned that overwhelm is a trigger emotion that a lot of ADHD sufferers experience just before they go into a panic attack or an anxiety overload. Because the ADHD sufferer is an HSP, hypersensitive person, they are already maxed out. So when they get additional overwhelm, they are immediately triggered into their fear system so that something steps forward in their fear system and says, you are afraid to fail, because failure means abuse in their world. Failure means disappointment. Failure means something a lot greater than just failure. So for people who suffer from ADHD and overwhelm, it's usually because they feel they can't handle it. They have a fear of not being able to handle it. What ends up resulting is panic attacks and anxiety triggers. My daughter has the same condition that my partner has, and the universe gave me the ability to sit down and interview my daughter today so I could gently ask her, what is it like to experience overwhelm? Overwhelm is not an emotion I feel, ever. Overwhelm to me is a bloop, and I go, oh, that's the cue. I need to sit down and reassess and decide what my resources are and then execute. It's inventory time. That's what overwhelm feels like to me, is, oh, inventory time. But it is such a minor, small emotion to me that it doesn't even feel like overwhelm. I have a whoosh, oh, it's over. It's time to do inventory. There's the sign. We're doing inventory now. And the overwhelm is in me and gone before I can even evaluate it. So I did not have the ability to sit down and pull apart overwhelm. But with my new perspective ability, where I can step into the perspectives of other people, I now can. So I sat my daughter down and very gently asked her what it feels like. As she described it to me, I was able to see exactly at what point overwhelm becomes an emotional trigger that completely resets a series of events that immediately leads to hyperventilating, panic attacks, shock, awe, surprise, a feeling of no control, the exact formula that is required when somebody picks up an addiction. I was able to look at it right away and say, and there is the perfect storm for addiction to begin. A person then has the choice. I don't feel like I can control this. They can either take control. My daughter takes control. She walked me through her process. She takes control. Or they can seek out the feeling of control. When you seek out the feeling of control, you are actually starting to plug into an addiction. So now you know this. So now the next time you feel overwhelmed, and then you're put in a position where you feel absolute anxiety, you know that you need to take control and not feel control. Because the minute you seek out the feeling of control, your brain is going to immediately trip and go, oh, what a phenomenal energy efficient substitute. Let's do that instead. And it does exactly like that. An energy efficient substitute. Let's all write that down. Energy efficient substitute. This is an addiction. Now, it's not just an addiction. It could also be self-harm, self-mutilation, or it could also be an eating disorder. In all of these scenarios, you are seeking out a feeling of control in a situation where you don't feel in control. Unfortunately, this is just the feeling of control without it actually being in control. Taking control is actually addressing the problem. But the control where you are seeking out the feeling is actually an avoidant technique. It's very common in people who avoid problems, which is why I can't feel it, is because I am not an avoidant. I was a disorganized attachment style with flair. I was an anxious. So I never felt any of this. The concept of avoiding a problem to me is so surreal. I cannot understand it. But my daughter and my partner are both avoidants. Both of them suffer from ADHD. Both of them are HSPs, and both of them have the perfect storm for energy efficient substitutes. In understanding my daughter, I was able to finally understand my partner. And after a year, he has agreed to see me. Over the weekend, I sent him a series of emails. I do this every time he's away. The first half of the emails are me just communicating. But the second half of the emails are me usually pulling him into my mind. But this time I did something different. Instead of pulling him into my mind, I stepped into his, and it really changed the perspective. And when I stepped into his, I realized a lot. I could understand his situation. I could understand his fear. And suddenly I had more patience and more stability and more certainty. I wrote them down on a collection of postcards, of index cards, and then I set them on the phone. Do this exercise. So that every time I picked up my phone to look at his texts, I could read first, and I did, all of the reminders of what his perspective are before even looking into what he had written or where he was. And it allowed me to really grasp and empathize and internalize where he was in proportion to where I was. And suddenly I could pass in and out of his perspective as easily as I was passing into my own. Now, couple that with this extraordinary alignment where he set off a series of wishes that corresponded with my trauma that would give me the precise tools that I would later need to be able to see eye to eye with him so that I could, at this point in my life, step into his mind and show him how I understood him to be. And I was right. And the only reason why I was able to pull this off was because I did survive the PTSD that I endured, that I did have to study it like I did. Suddenly, the reason for me enduring all of that trauma, the whole, what was it for? Why did I have to go through that? The answer, I had to go through my trauma so that I would be made into the precise thing that my ideal partner will require of me. I was literally built for him. So every time you manifest, every time you need, you are actually pulling on these threads of another human being and putting them through the required ordeals for them to cater to you, to fit you. Likewise, those same people, the same people are manifesting their own dreams, pulling you through a series of events, shaping you into exactly what it is they want and need. So that finally, when the two of you follow these energy threads back to each other, and you will, I will be teaching you how, you come together and you realize that the reason why the both of you are the way you are is because of all of the events that occurred prior to you meeting that you both manifested in each other. I want you to imagine for a minute that you were born attached to somebody. The Japanese actually have a culture around this called the red thread legend. According to Japanese culture, we are all born with a red thread around our pinky. This is your twin flame. And this red thread is absolutely on the other end, your partner. It's no different than the intuition. It's no different than you manifesting your partner. And you are attached from birth. Your energy is already aligned. And I have news for you. When you pass into the other realm and you go back to the energy pool, you guys are still aligned. I don't know yet if the energy pool is actually a bypass in between, or if it just means that you pass and you are reborn into another person instantaneous. That I haven't figured out yet. But you wake up and you are with your other partner and you pull on that thread your whole life and they pull on yours. And the events you go through is your true love pulling you through all this shit that you're going to have to need in order to fit them. And you're pulling on their thread, wishing for them to be. And you are already with the partner, the blank slate that you are going to be tied to, because those energies are bound and fused before you even get here. They are the same energy. And you just keep recycling the same energy over and over again, you too. That's why you have feelings of, I've known you before. Oh, I know who you are. Oh, that's why you're so familiar to me. And you end up with memories of each other that go all the way back. So that when you meet, you remember each other and you know. And it feels like you've known each other all your life and then some, because you have. So every time you manifest, you are pulling that same partner through a series of events so that they will fit you. Likewise, they are pulling you through a series of events so that you will fit them. Because in order for this to happen, when you two finally come together, you have to be in a position and a mindset to fit him or her. And likewise, they have to be in a position and a mindset to fit you. So in order to do that, you have to pull each other through the required turmoil so that you fit. But by the time you get to that point, you arrive not just precisely as they need you underneath as your individual, but also with all of the subconscious abuse that you endured from your abusers. That's why you need to take time apart, clean all of the dirt off, and then come back together. That's what triadic healing does, is it resets and restores you for you to fit your true flame in literally a fraction of the time. That's another thing we offer. So that when you come together, you can immediately shed and shake off all of the abuse and turmoil and just be your authentic self. Because when you find your true flame, it will only fit when. It will only fit when you will come together authentically. You cannot go to a twin partner any other way. You must come to your twin partner without anything but your authentic self, or the two of you will not fit. So in hindsight, I'm looking at all of my abuse going, son of a bitch. Whatever his internal wishes were, they dragged me through all of the trauma I had to endure to ensure that I would have all the skills required for when I met him. My God, do I love him. If you want more shit like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to know more shit like this, go ahead and click on the link tree below. You get to see our full menu of everything we offer. And if you loved this video and it resonated with you, click on the link. Tell me what part of the video you watched, which video you watched, and why it resonated. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.